Good day. I welcome you to the Youth Forum in Rhodes. Wherever you come from, whichever country you come from, you are welcome. Whatever nationality you belong to, whatever religion you belong to, whatever ethnic group you belong to, you are welcome. My name is Dallmayr. I am the co-chairperson of the World Public Forum. I come to you from America, but I'm a native of Germany, so I'm a person of many commitments, many loyalties. I welcome you in a dual capacity. First, as the chairperson of the World Public Forum, which is going to meet next week here in Rhodes, and we celebrate the 10th anniversary then. There has always been a very close and friendly relationship between the World Public Forum and the Youth Forum, and we want to keep it that way. I also welcome you as a member of the older generation, the generation of your fathers and grandfathers, and there always is and should be a close relationship, a friendly relationship between the older generation and younger generation. The task of the older generation is to instruct, to educate, to support, to culture, and to counsel the younger generation. The task of the younger generation is to respect the older generation, to listen, to lend an ear to their advice, and sometimes to follow that advice. Now, what I want to do here today is I want to offer you some advice. As an older person, as a teacher, I have been teaching for 50 years in universities, and as a friend. And what I want to do is this. I want to offer you 7 points, 7 things, what I hope you will do or shall do. So an advice, a positive advice, what you will do, what you shall do. And then I want to turn to 7 points where I hope you will not do or which you hope you will avoid doing. So first of all, my first advice, be loyal to yourself, be faithful to yourself, to your family, to your friends, to your country, and to the world. I do not mean to be self-centered, or to be family-centered, or to be nationalistic. I mean to be carefully attentive to the voice of your own conscience, the voice of your heart, to be carefully attentive to the voice of your family and friends, the voices of people in your country, and the voices in the world. This means you have to develop multiple loyalties, multiple commitments. It is difficult to do, but it is not impossible. And because it is not impossible, I ask you, I encourage you to do it. Secondly, in order to be able to do number 1, you should study and seek to understand the different aspects of your life to which you belong. So first of all, you should study and examine yourself. We are here in Greece, and the great Greek philosopher Socrates said that an unexamined life is not worth living. So examine your life. Whatever happens to you, ponder it, think about it. If good things happen to you, rejoice. If bad things happen to you, try to learn from them. You should also be careful to study the tradition of your country, the traditions of your family, the culture from which you come. You cannot make a contribution to the interaction among cultures and thus to the world and to the global family if you are ignorant of your own culture, of your own tradition. Every culture, every society offers some rich resources nurturing both heart and mind. So, you do not have to agree with everything in your tradition, but you should be familiar with it and be attentive to it. 3, in almost all societies, an important part of tradition is religion. You may not be yourself religious, but you should at least be familiar with the religion in your society and then with the multitude of religions in the world. This means you should study and explore a religion wherever you find it. Maybe you should even attend some services in churches, in synagogues, in mosques, in temples. If you do, you will discover that for many people, religion is at the heart of things. You learn that you must be careful not to offend people because they identify in many ways with their religious belief. So, do not offend the religious faith of others, and you will come in due course to respect and to honor that faith. Of course, if you are yourself religious, you must also learn not to inflict your own faith on other people who hold different faiths or are non-believers. 4, respecting people's religion is just one part of the broader ethical responsibility that you owe to other people and to all sentient beings in the world. So, my advice is this: study and ponder your ethical responsibilities carefully. Ethics is not a specialized discipline for experts. It is for everybody. Sometimes people mean that ethics is only limited to private life, but this is completely wrong. Ethics basically means to go beyond oneself, to go beyond one's ego, to consider other people as at least as important and valuable as yourself. This is what is meant by the so-called golden rule, or to treat others as you wish to be treated by them. The golden rule is not the property of one single culture or civilization. In somewhat different formulations, the golden rule can be found in all cultures, and it applies to all domains of life, not just to private life, but also to economic and business life, and to public and political life. And this leads me to number 5, the 5th advice. An important area, politics. Many people, including younger people, often think that politics and public life are so totally corrupted, so totally worthless, that we must stay away from it. And unfortunately, to some extent, they tend to be correct. But we have no exit, we have no alibi, there is no escape. Politics will reach us even if we run away from it. Now, in public life, ethical responsibility demands, above all, the pursuit of justice, that everyone is treated with respect and dignity. As some philosophers say, justice means that everyone is given his or her due, or that everyone enjoys an equal liberty. Now, you do not have justice, you cannot have justice if you have a rigid class structure in your society between extremely rich and extremely poor people, or between, as we say, the 1% and the 99%. But you also do not have justice if one group dominates and oppresses all others, where one group can mean an ethnic or racial group, but also a religious group or even a gender group. So my advice to you is, strive always for justice in your society and in the world. It is difficult to do, but it is not impossible, and so I ask you to do it. Number 6. You may ask me now, how should we strive for justice in the world? Here is my next advice, number 6. You must strive for justice justly. You must strive for democracy democratically. This means you cannot use unjust, oppressive, or undemocratic means to reach democracy. Here we have the teaching of the great Indian leader Mahatma Gandhi. Striving for truth and justice in the world, he called satyagraha. And the proper means to follow satyagraha was called ahimsa, namely non-violence. Thus, according to Gandhi, we must struggle, but we should struggle, if at all possible, without violence, without bloodshed, without mayhem. This does not mean for Gandhi that all violence is completely banished under all circumstances. There is the exception of self-defense. But it must be in response to a direct violent attack, and it must always be proportional. The Gandhian principle is included in the Charter of the United Nations, where Article 51 permits only strictly defensive warfare. This Gandhian principle and also the United Nations principle is undermined or violated by resort to unilateral aggressive war, and especially by preemptive war. To a large extent, our present world is in such a mess because this principle, Gandhi's principle and the United Nations principle, has been ignored and shunted aside. So my advice, struggle for justice, practice satyagraha in the method of ahimsa or non-violence. This leads me to my last point, number 7. The principle of ahimsa does not just mean not to inflict violence. As Gandhi has continuously emphasized, ahimsa means more. It has a positive meaning, namely to cultivate a caring attitude, to become involved with others in a caring and attentive way, an attitude which, far from inflicting harm, seeks to heal wounds, which, far from inciting hatred and enmity, seeks to generate friendliness and goodwill, which, far from condoning destruction, seeks to cultivate peace, peace among all people, and the good life with justice for all. I come now to my 7 points, my 7 negative points, which I hope you will avoid. I can be more brief here because if you take to heart the preceding 7 positive points, you will almost inevitably avoid the following. First of all, first point, do not listen to the gospel of hatred or the propaganda of warmongers. Some people say that in the name of individual freedom, you can say or do whatever you want, including hate speech, abusive speech, sacrilegious speech. Yes, you may be able to do it freely under law, but you cannot do it with a good conscience. You cannot do it with a good conscience because conscience admonishes you to be responsible and respectful. So even if others do it, please don't do it. And abusive speech can include abusive videos, abusive gestures, abusive dances. Number 2, do not become a chauvinist. I have admonished you to show loyalty to your family and to your country. But such loyalty is far removed from the claim that your country or your family is superior or the best, and especially from the doctrine which says, right or wrong, my country. This is a wrong doctrine, and by following it, you wrong your country. You do not love your country properly if you allow it to be unjust, oppressive, aggressive, or imperialistic. In the latter case, you must criticize your country by practicing what is called tough love. Tough love. You have to be sometimes willing to speak truth to power. This is important because power without truth is tyranny. Number 3, tyranny is slavery, but there are many forms of slavery. Do not become a slave to wealth or possessions. This does not mean that you should not strive to earn a decent living for yourself and your family. But wealth and possession can become an obsession and even a religion. This obsession can lead to exploitation of others, and eventually it will destroy your soul. So my advice, do not worship mammon. 4, do not become a slave of ignorance. You owe it to yourself. You owe it to yourself and to others to cultivate your mind. This is the enormous task and challenge of education, after all. Nothing is more important for young people than education. However, not everything that you are exposed to is educational. In today's world, the media, newspaper, television, and internet often seem to aim at public stultification, at making people stupid, immature, and ignorant. They even often spread misinformation. Sometimes the news is highly slanted and irresponsible. Even wars and horrible catastrophes sometimes are presented as entertainment. So my advice, train your critical mind, your critical judgment. Do not be a slave to ignorance and brainwashing. 5, be informed about religion, but do not become a slave to mindless fanaticism. Here, above all, you need to exercise critical judgment. Like all good things, religion can be abused, can be exploited for irreligious purposes, such as wealth and worldly power. So practice the religion of service and love, but do not become a zealot. Number 6, do not become a slave to production and wasteful consumption. The wasteful production and wasteful consumption. As you know, our earth is not inexhaustible, and many of our practices are not sustainable. So, stand up against reckless spoliation of our natural resources, against the devastation of our forests, the devastation of our waterways and oceans. Global warming is not a left-wing propaganda. Do not support the destruction of nature. Lastly, my last point, number 7, do not abuse. Do not abuse others, but also do not abuse yourself. Remember, your body is a precious gift which should last you for a long time. So, treasure it, preserve it, exercise your body, strengthen it. Do not damage it. Do not damage your body through excessive alcohol consumption or drugs or other reckless behavior. Now here is my ending. I come to an end, and obviously I speak here now as a parent, a grandparent. This is what I would say and have said to my children and to my grandchildren. Thank you for listening. Be well and have a great and good time here at the Youth Forum in Rhodes. Thank you for being here.